cold. So the cold is pretty much the biggest thing you got to survive out here, being on the streets. There's people who have, from the hypothermia, just.
I have hardly any clothing. If it drops any lower, below 0 or something like that, or below 32, and I'm out on the street and I freeze to death.
Because I got stage 4 cancer. I don't know if I'm gonna make it through the winter.
It's a little tough for a couple people, we're just doing what we can do to survive.
We're all just waiting to go to the West Side Shelter. We need more tiny houses. We need more housing support out here.
As long as I can keep myself warm, I should make it through it.
Welcome, Homeless Life Stories.
There's a truth Homeless Life Stories is only just now facing head-on in 2025. Maryland has become a place where more than half of all people experiencing homelessness sleep directly under the open sky on the same sidewalks where tourists stop to take photos of Baltimore's harbor lights. For years, the state quietly proved that housing first works. Fewer people sleeping under bridges, more families pulled back from the edge.
There was nowhere to go, and it was very cold out. This is the only place I can think of to come to that they would let you in and give you a bed and shelter and food.
And then, with a single policy document from Washington, thousands of people were warned they could lose their homes. And all of that progress started to run backward in the span of a single winter. In a place many Americans imagine as stable, one brutal question cut straight through: is this system truly supporting people on solid ground, or just waiting for the chance to let them fall all the way back to the bottom? If you believe these numbers are human lives, not just news, hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe to Homeless Life Stories, because sometimes the first way to bring light into the dark is simply not allowing the truth to disappear. One, the reality of homelessness in Maryland. On paper, Maryland looks better than many other states. Around 6,934 people experience homelessness in a given year. And on any given night, between 2,500 and 3,000 people are trying to sleep somewhere in the cold, damp air, with trucks roaring past. But when you stand under a bridge in Baltimore at 2 a.m., those numbers suddenly seem very small, and the human faces grow very large.
There's been instances where people have frozen outside, sleeping on the park benches, and the temperature's just too unbearable for them.
In Baltimore alone, about 1,925 people are recorded as homeless on a single night. Tents pitched tight along the curb in Sandtown, Winchester, sleeping bags pressed against brick walls in Cherry Hill, tarps hooked over bridge railings to keep the rain off. Roughly 70% are single adults, 15% are families with young children, and more than 200 are veterans who once wore a uniform and now fold their clothes into plastic grocery bags.
Just come here just to get my rest and stay warm.
Black residents make up about 31% of the population, but 60% of the homeless population, a gap that cannot honestly be called coincidence. And this is not just a poor city problem. In Montgomery County, one of the wealthiest counties in the entire country, surveys show that housing and cost of living are the #1 source of anxiety. Many families say bluntly, if we fall behind on rent for just a couple of months, we end up in a shelter. Funds like CSRAP and CSRAP are being used just to cover back rent, to keep people from sliding over the edge. This is the almost homeless group, people whose lives are hanging by exactly 2 months of rent. James, a former dock worker at Sparrows Point, tells his story while adjusting the string bracelets he now sells, saving every dollar.
Yesterday was the first day of that real cold snap, and it was just so detrimental on the face and in the body.
I used to load steel onto ships. Now I'm loading my own things into a backpack. I never thought life could slide this fast. If you're still with us, drop a comment. How many families in Maryland right now do you think are just 2 months' rent away from a tent on the sidewalk? Two, what's driving the crisis' economic housing roots? To understand why people are falling out of their homes, you don't need philosophy, just a monthly budget sheet. In Baltimore, a typical 1-bedroom apartment runs around $1,350 a month. The median income hovers near $55,198 a year, and the minimum wage is $15 an hour. Once you add rent, utilities, gas, groceries, and medication, a lot of families realize that their housing costs are swallowing nearly half of their budget each month. About 10% of Maryland residents live below the poverty line, and 8.5% of adults are recorded as having serious mental health conditions, with many clusters in Baltimore, Cherry Hill, and other neglected neighborhoods. When housing costs climb, incomes stall, and healthcare and mental health systems are constantly overloaded, people pushed out of their homes don't just carry clothes with them, they carry unhealed wounds.
Did the talking to the doctors, they didn't want to do her surgery.
In the Maryland Housing Needs Assessment 2025, the state itself is forced to write what many people experiencing homelessness have been saying their whole lives. Soaring housing costs and a shortage of affordable units are the primary drivers pushing people into homelessness. The Tenants' Bill of Rights was created so renters actually know how they're protected against unfair evictions or sudden rent hikes. In other words, even the state government has had to admit, the problem is not lazy people who won't try hard enough. It's that housing prices have sprinted far ahead of wages, leaving the most vulnerable people standing on the roadside, watching the rest of the world pull away. Three, efforts to combat homelessness, from vouchers to new 2025 programs. Across the state, Maryland has not been standing still. More than 22,000 housing choice vouchers are currently in use, with Baltimore alone accounting for around 9,500. But right behind that figure is another long line. Roughly 25,000 households are on wait lists, hoping for their turn to get help with rent. Shelters in Baltimore provide about 1,200, 1,500 beds each night. Montgomery County runs its own system, funded by state and federal dollars. Through COSI and ESC sources, roughly $60 million plus another $8 million flow into the system, supporting more than 3,200 permanent supportive housing (SHAIS) units and helping around 1,000 households keep their housing in 2023. The Community Schools Rental Assistance Program (CSRAP) goes one step further. Instead of waiting for parents to show up at a shelter door, the program reaches out to families whose children attend community schools who are behind on rent and facing eviction. It offers up to 15 months of rent and utility assistance, prioritizing 8 high-need areas. More than 1,300 applications have been submitted, and roughly 400 households are currently being processed, each file representing an effort to stop the fall before it starts. Sarah, a single mother of 2, told us right after signing her SRAP paperwork. I told my daughter we're not going to have to sleep in the car. She looked at me and said, "So our house is still our house, right, Mom?" I just nodded because if I opened my mouth, I think I would have cried. These programs are not perfect, but they show one crucial thing. When Maryland thinks from the root, the state isn't just looking for places to put beds, it's looking for ways to keep people from falling out of their own. Four, a path forward, solutions with heart, vision, and scaling what already works. If you look at Maryland from above, you'll see something most reports barely mention: hundreds of empty spaces. Around 700 vacant lots in Baltimore, patches of land sitting idle, overgrown with grass, sometimes used as makeshift parking, could become as many as 5,000 affordable homes if they were planned properly. Each potential foundation is really a question: what are we going to plant on this empty ground? More glass and steel, or a real chance for someone not to sleep outside?
It may be that I don't get to an interview for a job because I can work. It's because of how I look. I don't get that job. It had nothing to do with my skills, my experience, or anything.
Montgomery County offers a different kind of model. Funds like CSRAP and CSRAP act like life rafts. Instead of waiting for people to drown, the county steps in early, paying back rent and overdue bills, keeping families in the apartments they already have. For young people and new parents, scaling up models like Restoration Gardens and the Geraldine Young Family Life Center doesn't just mean building units, it means building a way forward, housing, skills, education, community. Prevention may not look dramatic on camera. There are no police lights, no encampment sweeps, no shouting at public hearings. But if CSRAP is expanded to more counties and the Tenants' Bill of Rights is paired with real legal support for renters, then we're finally putting a shield in place before people become homeless. Housing first still has to be the backbone. Get people indoors first. And only then is it realistic to talk about treatment, employment, and health. Malik, a man in his 40s who once slept at a bus stop in West Baltimore and now holds the keys to a small studio through a Housing First program, puts it very simply. When you're worried about where you're going to sleep tonight, you can't worry about where you're going to work tomorrow. Now, at least I have a place to put my alarm clock. Solutions with heart are not just feel-good lines in a report. They're the only way to stop those numbers from turning into yet another row of tents on the sidewalk. Five, the emotional toll, the mental weight of living without a home. By day, Maryland land looks busy and orderly. At night, under bridges and parking lots, along tree lines near the highway, you start to hear the stories that never make it into spreadsheets. Anxiety isn't just written on people's foreheads. It's in the way they fold their blankets, clutch their backpacks, and scan the area before daring to close their eyes. Invisibility isn't just no one saying hello. It's the feeling of moving through a city where no one remembers your face. Shame and stigma settle like a thin layer of dust on everything, especially for Black residents experiencing homelessness, people who are used to being seen as a problem long before they're listened to as a person. Encourage the weak, be patient with everyone. In Maryland in 2025, Many people without a home are praying for exactly that kind of patience, stretched just a few more months of rent. If these paragraphs sit heavy with you, hit like not to make the video go viral, but so the algorithm doesn't bury these stories under hundreds of other clips meant only to distract. Six, societal expectations, the pressure to pull yourself up and the weight of stereotypes. In America, the most common line given to people who are struggling is, "You just have to get back on track." It sounds perfectly reasonable until you put it next to a rent bill, a history of discrimination, and a damaged credit record. In Maryland, about 70% of people experiencing homelessness are longtime residents, not outsiders coming to game the system. They used to be neighbors, co-workers, bus drivers, restaurant workers, the very people the city depended on, right up until the day the city moved forward faster than their feet could follow. When media talk about encampments as a threat, a public safety hotspot, it becomes very easy for the public to slip into a familiar mindset, clear them out instead of bring them indoors. Demanding that people pull themselves up while rents climb, wages lag, and generations of exclusion and blocked wealth building pile up is like asking someone to run a marathon while you're the one strapping extra weights to their legs. Seven, urban shadows, encampments, and the fight to clear tents or build homes. If you drive through Baltimore on the highway in daylight, you mostly see rows of red brick houses, old churches, a few new office buildings. But when you step down under the overpasses, walk along the tracks, or follow the waterfront, a second map appears. Down there, bridge supports become ceilings, railings become coat racks, and empty parking lots turn into temporary neighborhoods. In 2025, the city carried out more than 20 encampment sweeps, clearing tents, belongings, and any trace that might make downtown look messy. Local papers called the people caught up in these operations some of the most forgotten residents. To some house neighbors, this looks like an effort to restore order to public space. To the people living in those tents, it's the third, fourth, fifth time they've had to cram their lives into 2 plastic bags before the garbage trucks roll in. Eight, the safety net, when HUD pulls the rug out. In Maryland's safety net picture, there are many thin but crucial threads: TCA, Medicaid, SNAP, the Homelessness Assistance Fund, vouchers, rent assistance programs, permanent supportive housing. Together they form a loose net just strong enough to keep thousands of people from falling straight onto the sidewalk. Then, on November 19th, 2025, Maryland Housing Secretary Jake Day issued a stark warning. A new HUD policy was set to slash funding for permanent housing, cutting it from roughly 90% down to 30%, tightening the screws on housing first and shifting money toward short-term, conditional shelter tied to worker services. State estimates suggested this could push about 3,300 adults and 1,100 children out of their homes, driving homelessness up by roughly 25% almost overnight. Put simply, Maryland spent years building a housing-first staircase so people experiencing homelessness could climb back up, and one document from Washington was about to kick that staircase away, leaving everyone hanging in midair.
You're very welcome. And you guys can split these socks. There's like a pack of socks. We will. And then
9. A personal reflection. Homeless life stories perspective. Seen from the outside, Maryland in 2025 can be squeezed into a single chart. 6,934 people experiencing homelessness, 20,000 households on housing wait lists, 280 children who have had to sleep in hotels, and a federal policy that almost pushed another 25% of people over the edge. For many, that's just today's news. For Homeless Life Stories, those numbers feel less like a statistic and more like a fire alarm. Maryland is not just telling its own story. It is a small version of America itself, a country split between those who have a front door and those for whom the sky is the only ceiling. At one end is Montgomery County, affluent suburbs where parents worry about keeping their kids in good schools. At the other end is Baltimore, where parents worry about where their kids will sleep tonight. And in the middle are lines of text from Washington that can suddenly decide who stays housed and who ends up on the sidewalk. When a misguided policy written far away can almost instantly push thousands of people straight onto the pavement, we believe America has to ask itself, are we building a nation or just the shadow of one, where buildings grow taller every year, but the darkness at their feet grows thicker with every winter? There's one thing we've learned after every trip we've taken. Poverty is not a crime, but abandoning poor people, that is a failure of the system. And over time, indifference is more dangerous than any economic downturn. If you agree that these stories deserve to be heard, please subscribe to Homeless Life Stories. Not because the channel needs the numbers, but because every subscription is one more person willing to look directly at what the rest of society is trying hard to avoid. Wrapping up the journey. Maryland in 2025 is a three-layer mirror. In the first layer, the state shows that housing first can work, reducing homelessness by prioritizing long-term housing, and then immediately sees that progress threatened by a federal policy that almost rolled it back. In the second layer, the state experiments with new solutions like CSRAP, Restoration Gardens, and the Geraldine Young Family Life Center, while still carrying out encampment sweeps in Baltimore, two approaches that can cancel each other out if no one steps back to rethink the whole picture. In the third layer, wealthy suburbs like Montgomery and urban cores like Baltimore share the same reality. Once housing costs rise too fast, every place becomes fragile. When you close this video, there will still be people sleeping outside in Maryland. The question is, will their story stay in your mind for a few more minutes, or will it be washed away by the next set of recommended videos? Tell us in the comments what you think about HUD, about housing first. Which model do you believe truly gets people off the streets for good? Hit like if you want the algorithm to push these stories to more people. And subscribe to Homeless Life Stories if you believe our job is not to increase fear, but to change something, even if that something is only the way one person looks at 110 on a sidewalk. Because in the end, a city is not measured by how many buildings are lit up, but by how many people don't have to sleep shivering under those very lights.